Hello, bonjour, and welcome to your new RT1 Exchange video. Welcome to this channel where we explore together, we learn about and we taste the wonderful world of wine. If you're not familiar with the RT1 Exchange, it is a wine investment and trading platform as well as a wine club. Make sure to check out the link in the video description to learn more. In our last video, I discussed how there's much more to Portuguese wines than just port. And if you're not familiar with Portuguese dry wines as well, I certainly recommend you watch that video about all types of Portuguese Vinhos. After watching today's video, of course, to learn more about those, some fascinating stuff in there. But still, one cannot discuss Portuguese wine without explaining ports. Some are confused by them. Let's talk about them. So here's what you should know about ports, where and how they're made, the different styles, the vintage, the tawnies, the rubies, the late bottled vintage, and which one is for you, depending on whether you prefer the fruitier style or the older, more aged style with more spices and caramel. We'll cover it all explained in simple terms, understandable terms, as we always do here. This is indeed your essential guide to Portuguese port wines. To have shorter, more digestible videos, this guide is going to be split into 3 chapters in 3 separate sequential videos, a sequel, a trilogy. Let's go. One could probably spend at least half an hour explaining all of the details of port production, but we'll stay simple here and succinct, just so you really grasp really well what port wines are all about, and you will quite well grasp this. Port wines are what we call fortified wines, meaning some alcohol is actually added to the wine at some point. So practically this means that after harvest, after picking the grapes, they are fermented like you would for any other wines. Now the grapes are put in a tank or in a traditional open fermenter that they call a lagar in Portugal, that allows to step on the grapes, and the skins macerate with some yeast. Yeasts are added to start the fermentation that extracts the color, the tannins, the flavors, all the goodness from the grapes into those gorgeously looking red port wines. But here, when about say half the sugars are transformed into alcohol, when the grape juice or partially fermented wine reaches between 6 and 9% alcohol, pure alcohol is added, or to be precise, this is a white alcohol at 77% ABV. It's added to bring the wine strength, total wine strength, to 18 to 20% alcohol. So this alcohol level kills the yeast, so they stop fermenting the sugars, so whatever is left of sugar in the wine will remain there, and that's why those port wines are stronger in alcohol than a dry wine. That's also why they are sweet. This is also why they age so well, because 20% alcohol protects the wine a lot against anything. Nothing can grow in a 20% alcohol solution, so the bacteria, the yeast, nothing grows there. So fortified sweet wines are very robust through time, very resilient. This is, in simple terms, what a port wine is: a strong, fortified, sweet red wine. Then you must know that port wines in Portugal can only be made in one single wine region of the country, that is called the Douro Valley, to the northeast of Portugal, named after the Douro River that flows through it. Fun fact, this Douro River is actually the same river that the Spanish call the Duero. You might be familiar with the Ribera del Duero area, well, in Spain, that's the same river that flows all the way down to Portugal, to Oporto. So the Douro Valley is possibly the most picturesque wine region on earth. It's certainly one of my favorites to visit, with these huge terrace vineyards in large hilly valleys overlooking this beautiful and quiet Douro River. What's great here is that it's very dry an area, especially in summer. Obviously it's very continental and it gets really hot, so the grapes get really ripe and very sweet and very concentrated, which is what you want to make some dense and powerful and tannic and rich red fortified wines. So soil is also really dry and rough, really rocky and raw, with some schist rock, generally with patches of granite and some sand. So virtually the vines grow on the rock itself. So it makes for really concentrated grapes, lots of tannins, lots of sugar. So a really unique area for viticulture in the world of wine, and you can't really reproduce this quality of grapes anywhere else in Portugal or in the world, to be honest. And this is what the Douro Valley is about. And it's located about 40 miles or 70 kilometers upstream from the city called Oporto or Porto, this city where they age those wines and then they export them to the UK. Traditionally, a lot was going to the UK, but now everywhere else, the US and the rest of the world. Because it goes through that city of Oporto or Porto, I think the names comes from there. They're called ports. And briefly, some of the most geeky details of port production, so you have all of the essential key information that every wine connoisseur knows about ports, so you can sound a little bit smarter after watching this. The grapes used are local grapes from Portugal themselves, the majority of them. They just work really well for these dry conditions because they make those really concentrated tannins and flavors. Their names are Touriga Nacional, Touriga Franca, Tinta Rores, which is the same grape as Spanish Tempranillo, Tinta Cao and Tinta Barroca. So port wines are blended using different grapes, and each grape brings different characteristics, different flavors, different acidity levels that winemaker can play with in the final blend. There is also in the Douro a very sophisticated and famous classification system of vineyard quality or qualities that ranks vineyards from the top quality sites that are called quality A, B, C, D until the lowest quality level, which is F. It's like the Grand Crus and Premier Crus in France, if you wish, but with 7 levels. It's a relatively old traditional system in which each plot has been assigned a quality rating since the 1940s, I think it was first designed and introduced. The quality of a vineyard depends on the soil, the type of grape that is grown there, the grape variety, the age of the vines, etc. Essentially, that's a reflection of how concentrated and how refined the grapes grown on this site are going to be in the end, and how good the wine will be. So the system is called the beneficio, and since ports are usually blended, well, wineries buy grapes from local growers that own the vineyards. For the cheaper stuff, they're going to be buying the lower levels, E or F, or for the top Grand Cru type of ports, they will buy grapes from A, B vineyards, and that's how they source the grapes from all the Valais. And that's your basis of what port wine is, how it's made and where it comes from. Then from those Douro grapes, depending on how you make the wine and how you age it in particular, you can create a variety of different styles, the tawnies, the vintage, etc. So let's get through those and explain them. So you can just click on that video right here that appears here to get to your next chapter of our complete guide to port wines right here. I'll see you there right now. If you're watching this video and this video is not out yet, I'll publish it next week. Just subscribe with notifications on to not miss it. You can also watch in the meantime this complete guide to all Portuguese wines, including fascinating dry wines that they make as well in the country. You can watch this too.